Pay attention, because the world around you is engineered to keep you weak. The majority of people live soft, comfortable, and predictable lives. They talk endlessly about what they are capable of, while they squander their most valuable days scrolling through digital noise, hunting for fleeting validation and numbing their consciousness with empty entertainment. They flee from discomfort as if it were punishment, when the truth is that struggle is the only forge that produces strength. They sacrifice mental sharpness for constant stimulation and trade deep focus for cheap rewards. Then they look at their hollow, unfulfilling lives and wonder why they feel so powerless. Here is the brutal truth you need to hear. The strongest, most complete version of you will never be born in luxury or safety. It is built in the silence of early mornings, in the weight of sacrifice, and in those defining moments when you make the harder choice, not because it is comfortable, but because who you are becoming demands it. Stoic philosophy teaches us that the obstacle is never something to be avoided or escaped. The obstacle is the path forward. It must be faced, completely, directly, and with every part of your being. If you are genuinely tired of being ruled by your own weakness, and you are truly ready to take back control of your life, stay with this. This is for the part of you that refuses to surrender quietly. The journey toward building a life that leaves a mark begins exactly here. Most people move through their entire existence without ever realizing they are moving like prey. You can feel it in the smallest moments. They apologize simply for having opinions. They make themselves smaller in rooms where they should be expanding. They stay silent about what they believe, just to avoid any friction. Prey moves through the world carefully, always calculating how to avoid being noticed, how to avoid being a challenge, and how to avoid claiming any meaningful space. But here is the uncomfortable reality. The world does not reward those who make themselves invisible. It devours them. When you carry yourself as though you are merely trying to get through another day, the world picks up on the energy of uncertainty and responds accordingly. People will talk over you more often. They will underestimate your worth. They will test your limits, not always because they intend harm, but because human nature recognizes the posture of someone who will not defend themselves. If you do not claim your space with confidence, someone will take it from you without hesitation. This is not a cruel or unfair rule. It is simply the law of how things work. You were not made to crawl through your years hoping no one challenges you. You were built to move with undeniable presence. Presence does not mean being the loudest or the most dramatic person in any room. It means being still, grounded, and completely there. It means walking into a space without the desperate need for everyone's approval. It means you stop justifying yourself every few minutes because you have internalized something important. Real confidence is quiet. It is power that does not need to announce itself. Carl Jung once wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Authenticity does not grow from people-pleasing, it grows from presence. Stop treating your own weakness like it is some kind of spiritual achievement. Start moving like your presence actually matters, because it does. Your tone matters. Your posture matters. The way you carry your name matters. When you enter a room, you are already telling a silent story about your value. Ask yourself honestly whether that story speaks of power or passivity. If you do not like what you discover, rewrite it, not by saying more, but by living more intentionally. Prey survives by following invisible rules. Speak softly, want little, take up no space. But truly living is something different entirely. Living means moving toward what challenges you, standing your ground even when your voice is unsteady, and saying without apology, "This is who I am," without scanning the room for permission. This kind of life belongs to those who are grounded. Being grounded means you no longer walk away from yourself when things become difficult. It means you stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to be whole. Give yourself that permission right now. Stepping out of the version of yourself you have been performing for others and into your actual self is the only way to live a life that was worth living. The majority of people do not lose their lives in one single dramatic tragedy. They lose them quietly, gradually, in the gaps between endless distractions. They lose them in hundreds of mindless taps on a screen, in dozens of conversations that lead nowhere, and in thousands of thoughts that produce nothing. This happens because focused attention has been stolen from them. In a world that has been deliberately designed to fragment your mind, the ability to concentrate deeply has become genuinely rare and extraordinarily powerful. Cold focus is the ability to protect your mental energy, to look at everything competing for your attention and decide what matters and what does not. It is about understanding your direction so precisely that nothing external can compete with it. It is about choosing where you are going over simply being stimulated. Most importantly, it is about becoming someone who does not need constant noise to feel alive and real. This kind of focus is born in the quiet spaces that most people actively avoid, because silence makes them feel hollow. But that hollowness is exactly where clarity lives. It is where genuine power begins to reveal itself. Every single time you choose silence over scrolling, you reclaim a fragment of your mind. Every time you guard your attention deliberately, you become harder for the world to manipulate. In an economy that profits directly from keeping you distracted and reactive, being resistant to that manipulation is a form of real strength. Look at how the average day unfolds. Most people live in a constant state of reaction, responding to whatever notification or impulse arrives, rather than operating from clear intention. That reactive way of living steadily erodes your edge. Cold focus is not emotional or hyped up. It is fueled entirely by clarity, and clarity comes from asking yourself the difficult questions. What am I actually building with my time? Who am I becoming through the habits I practice every day? What would my life look and feel like if I simply removed the noise? Every day you avoid these questions, the world answers them for you, filling the space with urgency that feels important but ultimately means nothing. Build your environment to support your mind rather than undermine it. Remove the applications that drain your energy. Distance yourself from people who consistently pull you away from your path. Eliminate habits that deliver short-term pleasure while slowly destroying long-term peace. Real focus is about saying no to everything that weakens the thing you are building. When the choices you make each day begin to align with the values you hold most deeply, that tearing internal conflict disappears. You start moving like someone who knows exactly where they are heading. Carl Jung wrote that whoever looks outside merely dreams, but whoever looks within truly awakens. Focus is what wakes you from the dream of distraction. Commit fully to one direction and pour everything into it. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that we hold power over our minds, not over external circumstances. Recognize this, find your strength, and stay locked in. Emotions are genuinely powerful forces. They arrive without warning, like sudden weather, and they demand an immediate response. You receive a message that stings, and before your rational mind can catch up, you are already reacting. You feel rejected, so you pursue validation. You feel afraid, so you delay what matters. In those split-second reactions, you hand over your power completely. Every time you allow a passing emotional state to drive your behavior, You surrender control of your own life. Ruling your emotions does not mean suppressing them or pretending they do not exist. It means you acknowledge them clearly without being owned or driven by them. It means you create space between what you feel and what you do. Strength is not in the performance of being unmoved. It is in choosing your response with full clarity. Not every emotion that arises deserves an external response. Some simply need to move through you and dissolve. Emotions are like weather patterns, sometimes turbulent, sometimes calm. But you do not tear down and rebuild your house every time a storm passes through. You build walls that are strong and a foundation that does not shift. That internal stability is what real discipline looks like. Carl Jung wrote that until you bring the unconscious into consciousness, it will govern your life, and you will mistake it for fate. Emotional mastery gives you the awareness to stop blaming external circumstances for reactions you have never taken responsibility for. Consider the last time you deeply regretted a response or a decision. It was almost certainly not because you lacked intelligence or information. It was because pride, fear, or shame took the wheel in that moment. The decision came from an old wound rather than from wisdom. Once you genuinely learn to sit with an emotion and allow it to pass without immediately acting on it, you begin to move through the world differently. You respond from intention rather than react from pain. You feel the anger and you observe it instead of erupting. You feel the fear and you prepare yourself instead of hiding. You feel the sadness and you listen to what it is trying to teach you rather than fleeing from it. This does not make you cold or detached from life. It makes you clear. Emotions become instruments in your hands rather than chains around your behavior. They ride alongside you. They do not get to drive. This is the heart of Stoicism. Emotions are woven into human existence, but they do not define your character or determine your choices. Epictetus taught that it is never what happens to you, but how you choose to respond to it, that carries all the weight. Power lives in facing difficulty with composure and choosing strength in each individual moment. When you can remain grounded while everyone around you is spiraling, you become someone that others lean on and trust. And Seneca wrote that the most powerful person is the one who holds command over themselves. Discipline is not loud. It does not demand attention or announce itself. Discipline is built quietly, in the dark, in the small, invisible choices that no one else witnesses. It is forged in the moments when you could let yourself slide, when no one would know or judge you for it, and you choose not to. Most people want the results of growth without the actual cost of consistency. They want the strength without the sacrifice. Motivation is accessible and easy when your energy is high and everything feels possible. But what happens when it is cold, when you are exhausted, when nothing external is pushing you except your own commitment to yourself? That is the precise moment where the gap between ordinary and exceptional is drawn. Discipline does not negotiate with how you feel in this particular moment. It is only interested in who you are becoming across time. Motivation behaves like weather, welcome when it arrives, completely unreliable when you actually need it. If your progress depends entirely on motivation, you will remain stuck exactly where you are. Discipline means showing up on the ordinary days, the slow days, the painful and inconvenient days. It means treating your goals as absolute commitments rather than flexible suggestions. The workout you did not want to do, the early morning you almost surrendered to the comfort of your bed. Those are the days that matter most. They are the days that shape the part of you that knows how to follow through when everything in you wants to quit. Real, lasting power comes from habits built over time, not from moments of intense inspiration. Waiting until you feel ready is simply a sophisticated way of avoiding responsibility. Discipline does not wait for the right moment. It manufactures the right moment through consistent action. It is what allows you to sit down and do the necessary work when your mind is scattered in 100 directions. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you build a deeper level of trust with yourself. That self-trust becomes a quiet, unshakable form of confidence that cannot be taken from you. Epictetus said that no man is truly free who is not master of himself. Discipline is that mastery. It is the capacity to steer your life deliberately rather than being tossed around by every impulse, mood, and distraction that appears. It is not one grand heroic act. It is 1,000 small, invisible victories compounding over time. Growth lives inside the repetition, in the space between the person you are right now and the person you are in the process of becoming. You will have to release comfort and the need for external validation, but in return, you will get back a version of yourself that cannot be shaken by circumstances. You stop being a prisoner to your moods and emotions. You become someone whose word, especially to themselves, actually means something. Rest when your body genuinely needs it, but never allow your excuses to become the foundation you build your life on. Build that foundation on showing up, again and again and again. Marcus Aurelius wrote simply, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one." Most people do not fully recognize how much weight they are carrying until they finally release it. They are exhausted not because they are doing too much, but because they are holding on to things that stopped serving them long ago. People, patterns, memories, and beliefs they have never questioned. There is a quiet story we tell ourselves that staying loyal to something, simply because it is familiar, is a form of strength. But when that familiarity consistently hurts you, that loyalty is not strength. It is fear wearing the mask of comfort, and it is one of the primary reasons so many people remain trapped in lives that do not fit who they actually are. Detachment does not mean that you stop caring about things or people. It means you stop allowing things to own you and define your worth. You stop measuring your value by whether or not you have the approval of others. There is nothing honorable about sacrificing your peace repeatedly in order to demonstrate loyalty. Your loyalty should never come at the price of your sanity or your sense of self. Detachment is the act of reclaiming your inner power. And it is not only external situations that drain you, it is your own internal attachment to the version of yourself you believe you are supposed to be. The perfection you relentlessly pursue, the terror of letting someone down, the identity you have been performing for years. These are invisible chains that keep you blurred and small. But you can always choose to cut that rope. Carl Jung wrote that the most terrifying act is to accept oneself completely. That acceptance includes acknowledging honestly that you have outgrown certain people, certain relationships, and certain paths. Detachment is not abandonment or indifference. It is clarity. It is the firm refusal to allow guilt to keep tethering you to things that actively dim your light and limit your growth. Sometimes walking away is the most honest thing you can do, for yourself and for the people around you. There is genuine courage in choosing discomfort in the present moment in order to protect your future peace. If you continue holding on to what is breaking you, you will not have the capacity to build what could actually grow you. Detachment is ultimately about reclaiming your time, your energy, and your direction. Seneca wrote to begin immediately to live, and to count each separate day as a separate and complete life. Detachment is what allows you to stop dragging the accumulated weight of the past into every present moment. It is the freedom to walk forward with grace rather than resentment. Release the version of yourself that has been tolerating far more than it should. Choose peace and clarity, not as rewards you are waiting to earn, but as declarations of who you are. You are not a storage space for old pain. Cut the rope. Choose freedom. Step forward. Patience has been widely misunderstood as passive waiting, as simply sitting still while time passes. But genuine patience, the kind that actually transforms a person, is the opposite of passive. It is fierce and completely focused. It is the deliberate decision to pause when everything inside you is screaming to rush forward. It is holding your ground with full composure while others lunge impulsively, because you understand with clarity that your moment is building. The majority of people live in a state of chronic urgency, speaking before they have fully thought something through, and moving before they can see the landscape clearly. They rush into situations because they are terrified of missing an opportunity, but that is precisely how people get blindsided. They hand their power over by moving too fast and thinking too little. Everything truly powerful in nature requires time to develop. Trees do not appear overnight. Storms do not form in moments. The most effective predators in nature do not chase everything that moves. They observe, they calculate, and when they strike, the movement is precise and decisive. Patience operates the same way. It is not passivity, it is calculation. It is the deep knowledge that timing is often the difference between a breakthrough and self-destruction. Moving before you are ready reveals everything. Waiting until you have the full picture gives you a decisive advantage over those who act from emotion. Reserve your energy for what genuinely matters, rather than draining it on whatever feels urgent in the moment. Silence and stillness are not weaknesses, they are strategic advantages. The person who can remain composed and clear-headed while everyone around them is losing themselves wins the longer game without question. Rushing through decisions invites critical mistakes and causes you to overlook the warning signs that were right in front of you. Patience creates the space to see people and situations for what they actually are, and to allow the truth to surface naturally. Wisdom grows in that space. When you stop demanding that everything happen immediately, you begin building things that are actually designed to last. This is not about reducing your ambition, it is about elevating your standard. While others exhaust themselves chasing moments of satisfaction, you are building sustained momentum. Restraint gives your actions genuine weight and meaning. You do not move impulsively, but when you do move, the impact is real. This kind of presence makes you genuinely memorable, precisely because it is so rare in the world. Aristotle said that patience is bitter, but the fruit it produces is sweet beyond measure. Results arrive exactly when you are fully prepared for them, provided your daily actions remain aligned with your deeper purpose. Patience refines your vision and reshapes your character in ways that nothing else can. Move at the rhythm that belongs to you. Choose stillness when that is what the moment calls for, and when the path aligns and the timing is right, move with the confidence of someone who has been preparing their entire life for exactly this. Most people are genuinely afraid of silence. They rush to fill every quiet space with words, noise, or activity because the quiet feels threatening to them. But as the world around us grows louder and more chaotic, silence becomes exponentially more valuable and more powerful. The person who remains still and speaks only when it genuinely serves something stands apart immediately, because they communicate intentionality in a world saturated with noise. Silence is not emptiness, It is a form of communication that often carries more weight than words ever could. Consider what happens when you pause longer before responding and speak far less overall. People begin leaning in. Mystery generates its own gravitational pull, drawing attention and interest without any demands being made. There is a profound difference between silence that comes from uncertainty and silence that comes from being certain enough that you do not feel the need to justify yourself. The second kind carries unmistakable weight. Carl Jung wrote that in the silence of listening, the soul discovers its path. Silence creates the conditions for clarity. When you quiet the external and internal noise, you finally hear your own thoughts with precision. You begin to notice details, tone, tension, subtext, intention, that everyone else is too distracted or reactive to pick up on. Understanding the room better than anyone else in it is a quiet form of leverage. Silence also protects you from yourself. It gives you the time and space to choose your response deliberately rather than reacting from an emotional state. When you withhold the reaction that others are expecting from you, they often lose their footing. Your silence becomes a kind of pressure, and that discomfort becomes your advantage in the situation. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the finest response to those who wrong you is simply to be nothing like them. Silence is how you rise above, without requiring a single word to do it. Silence also creates a quality of presence that is difficult to manufacture artificially. Quite often, the person who speaks least in a room carries the most actual weight, because when they do speak, it is clearly for a reason. Their silence signals that they have standards for what is worth saying. This does not mean you never express yourself fully or with passion. It means that when you do, it registers deeply because it has not been diluted by unnecessary words. Silence used with intention is a form of precision. It is choosing depth and impact over volume and frequency. Resist the pull to over-explain, to fill every moment with your voice, to perform confidence through words. Choose stillness. Stay in control of yourself, build respect without ever demanding it, and hold power without ever making noise about it. Respect is not something you request from others or earn through displays of charm and likability. It is built moment by moment, in the way you move, in the way you respond when circumstances are difficult, and especially in the choices you make when no one is watching. People respect you when they witness you living by actual principles and refusing to abandon those principles for the sake of comfort or approval. The moment you begin chasing respect, you hand over the very thing that creates it. Real respect is constructed through consistency and quiet strength. It is built when your words align precisely with your behavior over time. It is built when you refuse to tolerate being treated poorly, even when that means walking away from something or someone you value. It is built when you keep the promises you make to yourself, not just to others. The way you treat yourself establishes the standard for how the world treats you. Carl Jung wrote that the world will ask you who you are, and if you do not already know, the world will tell you. Lead with clarity, embody respect as a way of living, rather than pursuing it as a goal to be achieved. Commanding genuine respect means that your boundaries come with real consequences. A boundary that you do not enforce when it is crossed is simply a suggestion, and people treat it accordingly. Respect also grows naturally from consistently doing the difficult things that others avoid, and from remaining grounded and centered when life becomes loud and unpredictable. When people observe that you do not crumble under pressure, do not chase validation, and do not shift who you are based on who is in the room, your presence becomes genuinely rare, and rare things are respected without needing to be demanded. Stop explaining yourself and start demonstrating who you are through sustained action. The purpose is not to make people afraid of you. The purpose is to become someone so clearly defined and consistent that you simply cannot be manipulated or shaken for approval. Build that respect from the inside and live it outwardly in every interaction and every decision. Speak less and mean more. Hold your line without drama. Become the person that no one can shake or redirect with social pressure. Build something that speaks when you are not in the room, not just a way of life, but a legacy that continues to hold weight in your absence. A lifestyle is about temporary highs and accumulated possessions, but a legacy is about stacking genuine meaning over time. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what we do now echoes forward into eternity. Every choice you make sends a ripple forward into the life you are building. Take complete ownership of yourself, lead yourself with uncompromising standards, and become the kind of person whose example saves other people simply by existing. Legacy is not written in words, it is written in sustained behavior and deliberate action across an entire lifetime. And finally, release the old version of yourself without hesitation or ceremony. Real transformation begins the instant you let go of everything that no longer serves who you are becoming. You cannot carry both the future you are building and the excuses that have kept you small. Close that door permanently. Walk forward without looking back and without apology. The only direction that matters is forward. Become the person you were always capable of being, deliberate, disciplined, and genuinely unstoppable.